Welcome to Google Ads Decoded, practical talk to help you navigate change, be in the know about new and upcoming features, and ultimately drive more value from Google Ads. I'm your host, Ginny Marvin, Google Ads Product Liaison. In each episode, we'll hear from the people behind Google Ads, share actionable insights, and answer top questions from the ads community. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, let's dive in. In this episode, we're covering DemandGen campaigns. Launched a few years ago, DemandGen campaigns have a social-like campaign construction flow and ad formats that are high visual and multi-format. DemandGen offers several distinct levers and features for audience customization, including lookalike segments and newly available channel controls that allow you to serve ads on specific inventory, such as YouTube in feed, YouTube in stream, and or YouTube shorts, etc. I spoke with Sarah Hathramani, who leads product development for DemandGen, and she shares how DemandGen campaigns have evolved to become an effective conversion-based campaign type, why we launched the new target CPC bidding strategy, and we also discussed targeting strategies for DemandGen and a whole lot more. Enjoy the conversation and then stick around for Q&A from the ads community. Sarah, welcome. Great to see you. And I know you just stepped into this role of leading product development for DemandGen in the last year. And how are things going?
Thanks, Ginny, for having me. As you mentioned, I stepped into this role last year, but it feels like longer than it has been. I think mostly because the teams have been working really hard to make sure that YouTube is synonymous with decisions and performance and making sure this is a great place for an advertiser to see results.
Great. So let's just dive right in. You mentioned YouTube. How should marketers be thinking about DemandGen in terms of fit into their overall strategy? What is it particularly well suited to optimize for?
The way I think about DemandGen is an opportunity to extend your marketing objectives as a marketer on social platforms to DemandGen, especially YouTube. So think about this in terms of what you're doing on those platforms. Could be driving sales from new and existing customers or acquiring qualified leads, for a new credit card product. Well, why would you, do it on YouTube if you're already doing it on other social platforms? I mean, you do it because there are audiences on YouTube that aren't anywhere else. So we know that 32% of Gen Z Shorts users don't use TikTok. 57% of Gen Z Shorts users don't use Reels. So I think it's a pretty powerful message to use DemandGen as an opportunity to extend your marketing objectives on social platforms to DemandGen, because you're reaching audiences that aren't on the other platforms where you're already running those campaigns. I was going to say we could go back to driving sales or acquiring qualified leads for a new credit card. I mean, the bottom line is it's really important to think about the business outcomes you need to achieve and then set up DemandGen campaigns as a tool to achieve those outcomes. So when I think about the business outcomes that I'd care about, it's events at the bottom of the traditional funnel, purchases in an app, on a website, in a store, qualified leads, etc. But this is obviously going to be unique to the business and unique to you as a marketer.
Okay, and so we talked about kind of end of customer journey. Many will think about DemandGen. It's been positioned as more kind of mid-journey. So love to hear a little bit more about how marketers should be thinking about it in terms of where to reach audiences as they're going through those stages. And so how does that fit in to the overall strategy that marketers should be considering with DemandGen?
Historically, DemandGen really had this mid-funnel positioning. And I think that made a lot of sense at the time, given that YouTube has really always been known as a discovery powerhouse. But I think what's changed in the last year or so is that YouTube has become seriously good at helping people make decisions and be confident in the decisions that they make. we evolved the ad system from matching users to ads, which is what we did historically, to instead matching users to the apps, the products, or the services that they're most likely to be interested in, and then finding an ad that contained those apps, products, or services. And even if that user who saw that ad had never seen or heard of the brand before, we felt confident from a relevance perspective in showing the ad because it contained the app, the product, or the service that we understood them to be likely to be interested in or purchase. And so fundamentally, this is a change that we made on the product side to be better and more effective at predicting users' motivations and interests and propensities to purchase. And that fundamentally changed the way we serve ads and try to really meet this promise of helping marketers reach the right user at the right time with the right ad, with relevance and personalization sort of at the core. And that's why we feel much more comfortable, talking about DemandGen entering the performance pack this year, where we're really focused on transactions and bottom of the funnel conversions.
And just to tease that out a little bit more, are we talking about contextual matching from the ad is matching to the content, contextual content on the placement? Or is it the user has shown an interest in the type of product or service being advertised, and regardless of where they are and the type of content they're consuming, we know that there's going to be a relevance between the ad and the consumer in that moment?
Yeah, the way it's more similar to the latter. Maybe I can use like a personal example just to illustrate this. So I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and the 1-year-old is about to transition from an infant car seat to a child's car seat. And there may be signals across the Google ecosystem that would help understand that this is the life moment that I'm in right now, and that I'm very likely to be interested or need, as a matter of California law, to make a transition and buy a new product for a child's car seat. In the old world, a year ago, what we might have done is show an ad to me from a big box retailer because I've shown some prior affinity to that big box retailer. And what we're now doing is saying, Sarah is likely to be interested in child car seats. We think these models might be of interest to her given that she's started to express interest in safety concerns or price point. And then it's going to go find any retailer that might have these products in their catalog and find the right, most relevant ad to show to me, even if it allows me to discover a retailer that I may not have heard of before that might be one town over, but isn't necessarily at big box scale. So that's the change that we made. It has less to do with the time and place you are seeing the content within, the YouTube ecosystem. It has more to do about our understanding of your motivations, your interests, your propensities to purchase, and then finding those products, apps, or services from any particular advertiser that might be running ads at that time to serve you the most relevant ad.
Okay, great. That's really helpful. Thank you for digging into that. We recently introduced the display network to DemandGen. I know we focused very heavily on YouTube for a very good reason, but we'd love to get a little more color on the other inventory sources and from a creative standpoint, how advertisers should be thinking about display network, discovery, Gmail.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of change here recently. Previously, when marketers ran DemandGen, they ran across Gmail, Discover, and YouTube. And a few months ago now, we did a couple things. First, we introduced the display network, as you mentioned. And the idea here is to give advertisers, more choice in where their ads serve, and ultimately make more tools available for advertisers to drive performance. And so for many advertisers, adding display to their demand gen campaigns will be a great performance lever to pull, and advertisers should test that out and see the data for themselves. What we also did is introduce channel controls, which is a pretty new concept for all of the campaigns across the Google ecosystem, where previously there was only one option and you had to run across Gmail, Discover, and YouTube. And now that's no longer the case. You can decide to run YouTube only or YouTube and display, for example, or you can continue to run YouTube, Gmail, and Discover if you have a dedicated strategy for creatives only on the Google owned and operated properties, for example. So there's a theme here of more flexibility, more choice, the opportunity to sort of tailor your creatives to the specific organic experiences that may be different and distinct. And so we're excited to have that fully released and for advertisers to be adopting it and testing different strategies and figuring out what strategies work for them. But you mentioned creative, and I would say that the recommendation there, is for advertisers using demand gen. They really want to take full advantage of all of the inventories. We're really talking about the need to have both images and videos to reach people as natively and as effectively across all the properties that I mentioned, including now maps, which we're testing in a beta fashion.
So that brings a whole new dynamic for omnichannel and local businesses on maps. And I'm wondering, I just want to dig in a little bit more on creative. And should advertisers who are already running on social, should they be bringing their existing creatives over? Should they be thinking about specific bespoke creative for YouTube and other inventory options in demand gen? Yeah. Or does it matter if you're getting started? This is what you would recommend.
Yeah, I hear sometimes from marketers, I've been really wanting to test YouTube, but I don't have purpose-built, creative for YouTube. That's going to be a whole thing for my creative agency or my video production team. And stop right there. That's a myth. We're going to bust it. You don't have to hold off on testing YouTube until you have that perfect creative. You can absolutely start with what you have. Maybe it's your best performing creatives on TikTok or Meta. People say lift and shift, or you can say lift and adapt. And we have tools to help you do both. So there are tools in campaign construction for demand gen to make this really easy, easier than it's been before. There are trimming tools to help you identify the right, segment and length of a video. There are flipping tools that help you transform a landscape video into a vertical video. Boom, done, ready for shorts, right? And so I think what is a good guidepost and lighthouse to remember about demand gen is we have a really high bar for transparency and control. So all the tools that I just mentioned, whether it's trimming or flipping that video, you can turn them on or off. You can use them, you can not use them. You can exercise, more control if you have identified the segment that you think is going to make for the best 6 seconds on shorts. You have full power to do that. So you can expect, more creative tools like this going forward, tools that help you take advantage of the exciting times we're in around auto generation and automation. But it's really important that you continue to feel empowered during the use of those tools and feel that you have the options to stay true to your brand. And hopefully we'll have more to come and share there soon.
And I want to also talk about product feeds for merchants. And one, just underscore that demand gen supports product feeds. But anything you want to add on how marketers and merchants in particular should be thinking about their feeds and optimizing their feeds in any way, anything else that they should be doing other than just making those connections with the demand gen campaigns?
Yeah. Thanks, Ginny. You plugged it. If you have a feed in Google Merchant Center, they are fully supported in demand gen, and you should see those options as you go through campaign construction. And we've been working to make that connection easier. So if you haven't already connected your product feeds to your demand gen campaigns, definitely look to do that. And don't, again, take my word for it. The proof is in the data. You should go test it. But what we've seen across advertisers who do test it and adopt product feeds is that they're seeing a 33% conversion uplift when they do that. So that's pretty meaningful. And if you want to do what's best for your performance and your business outcomes, coming back to where we started, it seems like attaching feeds that you have already sitting in the Google Merchant Center is a very low-hanging fruit type of exercise to start with.
Just thinking about relevancy again, and I just kind of want to go back to that conversation that you were talking about in the beginning about how things have changed. How should you approach your placements reports? What guidance would you suggest people take in terms of how to interpret what those mean from a value standpoint?
Yeah. It's hard to give recommendations because I feel very strongly that there's no sort of one size fits all. But if we go back to those changes that I talked about earlier in my own experience in my search for a child's car seat and how we sort of evolved from previously matching users to ads and now matching users to the apps, products, and services that they're going to be most interested in, there are going to be advertisers who are like, great, cool, show me the money. Let the systems optimize for that because that sounds great. The best way, to do that would be to take advantage of something that we call OT or optimized targeting. That's going to give, our systems flexibility to use all the signals that we just talked about on, predicting users' interests, motivations to purchase. Use all those signals. Don't constrain it to show the right ad to the right user at the right time and ultimately deliver, performance. That said, we know that advertisers feel very strongly that many times they know something we don't. And so they may want to overlay the targeting with specifics around a list that they have or certain demographic information or language use that they don't believe our systems will know. And the beauty of DemandGen is that we're sort of able to sort of tailor the campaign to either one of those segments, either the sort of hands-off, great, use all the signals that you have to predict users' interests and serve the ads according to the interests that you detect and predict. Mm-hmm. But if I know something about my own business, let me bring those insights to the table, and DemandGen works in those cases as well. I think what's most important to emphasize is that it's working. And there were 60 plus launches. I think one of the reasons why, yes, I joined last year, but it feels like a long time. I think there were 60 plus launches in the last year since I've joined. And many of those AI powered improvements are leading to better returns, for advertisers. So advertisers are on average seeing a 26% year-over-year increase in conversions per dollar spent for goals like purchases and leads. And I think this has to do with, both those changes that I mentioned around how we're serving ads, the choice to rely on optimized targeting, but also the opportunity to bring something to your audience definition if you know something about your business that you want to enhance the system with.
Okay. And just on optimized targeting, I just want to clarify, make sure that we're clear, because I do get questions about this. So optimized targeting, you can layer on your own signals on top of that to get that reach of optimized targeting, plus inform the system with your own signals. Or if you want to test or you want to reach your specific targets, then turn off optimized targeting and use those signals alone. Anything else to add on that?
Both options exist, but I would say I'm personally a big proponent of optimized targeting, given some of these changes that we've been making to improve relevance and personalization.
If somebody tested optimized targeting 6 months, a year ago, and wasn't happy with it, you're saying that there have been changes, there have been optimizations to change how that might work, and it's worth giving it another shot to test. If I'm understanding you correctly.
I think the reason why I'm so excited and lit up about the team is that we're really developing at a rapid pace, and DemandGen is a different product than it was last week, last month, last quarter. And so yes, if you tested it last year, if you tested it 6-9 months ago, now is a great time to test again. It's a different product and it's getting better all the time.
Okay. Also, I mean, it's a good reminder. This is one of those conversations we have all the time with all of particularly automated AI-powered features is there's iteration and improvement. So if you tested something 6 months ago, year ago, might be worth revisiting. So can always bring that point back up. I want to talk about the new target CPC bid strategy. What does it do? How should marketers think about using it, and any particular considerations to keep in mind?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of different bidding strategies in DemandGen, and it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all. We understand that different campaigns and different strategies might map to each other in different ways over time. But we do know that there are segments of advertisers who use target bidding strategies. So that could be TCPA, TROAS, or now, TCPC. What we know about this segment of advertisers is that they're less budget sensitive as long as a certain efficiency target is hit, right? Mm-hmm. So in theory, they're comfortable spending almost on a limitless basis as long as this target is held somewhat religiously. And so if you are a marketer that falls into this category, then target-based bidding strategies are something for you to consider on campaigns where that makes sense. And for target CPC in particular, that's something that's starting to roll out now. It's something that other ad platforms have offered. And as I mentioned at the beginning, when we think about DemandGen as this extension of your marketing objectives, particularly on social platforms, it's really important to ensure that settings are one-to-one and mirrored as much as possible if you want to try to draw these comparisons of at the same target, this platform drove this much volume and this platform drove this much volume. And now I actually know how to scale up or scale down my budgets because I understand relative conversion contribution using the same settings, right? So if you are an advertiser who may be using target CPC on their social campaigns, now you are going to be able to establish like for like campaign settings in DemandGen, making those apples to apples comparisons more feasible to understand relative conversion contribution, which then should of course inform relative budget contribution as well.
Great. And I think you mentioned that, so that's rolling out is that rolling out globally?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. So that's target CPC. And I want to talk about any specific use cases. We've mentioned retail, and wondering if you can share more, anything about using it for if you've got an app, or if you're a lead gen advertiser, anything notable about those particular use cases that you want to highlight for DemandGen?
Yeah, there are a couple of really great new products that either just launched or are in the process of rolling out right now. If you have an app, Web to App Connect is now supported for iOS on YouTube. Users are going to benefit from clicking on an ad and landing in the mobile app, which we all know is going to be much more delightful than landing in the mobile site. And advertisers, of course, benefit from being able to optimize for and measure in-app conversions. So really excited about that one. I'd say especially, if you are going to be trying to drive in-app purchases, we know that those are going to be some of your most valuable customers for app advertisers ahead of holiday. Don't wait. Web to App Connect can take a minute to get set up, but take those steps now so that you can benefit as we head into peak holiday. And then, also in the retail space, we have new Omnichannel features that recently landed in DemandGen. So for conversion goals, there's now store visits and store sales, and that's going to be supported across all the inventory in DemandGen, Gmail, YouTube, Discover, Display, and even Maps, which I mentioned earlier is in beta and supported across TCPA and max conversions bidding strategies for those online, offline goals.
Great. And obviously you can also use DemandGen for lead gen in the same way that you can use other campaign types as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
I would just add to that. I mean, there are better and better ways to send lead data safely and privately back to Google so that we develop our own understanding of what a highly qualified lead looks like. And so I would be remiss not to mention the opportunity to send that data back, share that data in a way that allows you to benefit from better and more efficient ad delivery. If we can tell our systems, go find more possible leads that look like this and stop serving ads to users that might look like this, if we have more rich data that our systems can learn from.
Great. All right. Looking ahead, you shared some of the recent developments. Any hints you can give us about what the future vision looks like for DemandGen?
Yeah. Okay. Good things come in threes. So I'd say, performance, creatives, and shoppability. Performance, this is about continuing to build on that change we already made to the ad system, but further improving ad relevance to a user, ensuring ads feel more native and personalized. And of course, from an advertiser perspective, ensure on a conversions per dollar basis, your dollar is working harder and harder, and we take those efficiency equations very seriously. The second one is creatives, so more ways to generate assets while keeping brands in the driver's seat and in control of their identity. And then the third one I mentioned was shoppability, so whether that's smoother checkout experiences, in-app purchases, if you adopt Web to App Connect, or more shoppable formats. That's what you can expect to see, ranging from the mobile device to the desktop to the connected TV.
Great. And I know I just want to go back to the optimization work that's happening behind the scenes that doesn't get externalized all that often, but I do think it's just such an important thing to underscore that how things were working recently is not going to be how they're perhaps working now and into the future, and that there's constant optimizations happening with your team on the back end that may not get heralded regularly, but are obviously very important for advertiser performance, and that's sort of your, not to put words in your mouth, but your driving mission of what your team is working on. So definitely.
Our goal is, to keep the invisible stuff invisible, but for you to just see the better performance. And that's really what we care about more than a splashy product announcement.
All right. Let's close out with 3 top tips for marketers using DemandGen. How should they get the most out of it?
Yeah. I'd say bring your goals and campaign settings from social campaigns to DemandGen. That's first. Second, lift and shift, or what we talked about earlier, lift and adapt. Creative you already have. Don't wait. Start now with the best performing creatives that you already have at your fingertips. And third, use products like lookalikes and new customer acquisition bidding. That one we didn't talk about, Ginny, but it's now in beta and it's going to help you find new customers. It's something that advertisers have seen success with in PMAX, and we're excited to have it in DemandGen now too, so that you can find new customers, especially on YouTube. Think about all of these products as the best of AI working for you as you build a sustainable and profitable business, finding your next best customer.
Great. Love to see the evolution of DemandGen, how marketers should be thinking about playing a role in their overall efforts, and excited to see what is in the future.
Thanks for having me, Ginny.
All right, it's really interesting to hear how DemandGen now matches ads based on users' expressed interests, and how that opens up many more opportunities for people to discover new brands and businesses that they hadn't been exposed to previously. Some of the other takeaways that stuck out to me from my conversation with Sarah are: 1, you don't need to wait to have the perfect creative. Just start testing and iterating on your image and video assets and learn from those experiments. 2, you can overlay optimized targeting with specifics that you know about your audiences and customers that Google doesn't. And then if you want to use audiences as hard targets, just be sure to turn off optimized targeting. And 3rd, if you're using target CPC bidding on other social platforms, now you can use that in DemandGen as well for better one-to-one comparisons. All right. Now it's time for Q&A, where I answer some of the questions we've gotten recently from the ads community. I'm going to stay on theme and answer questions about DemandGen campaigns. I did an AMA with the PPC subreddit community recently, and these questions come from that. All right, question 1, how can I test different ads or audiences in DemandGen campaigns? There's a DemandGen experiment feature, which has 2 options. One is an A/B option to test image or video assets. That's in beta, and it will create a duplicate campaign with your treatment arm. The second option is a custom experiment, which you can use to test audiences, bidding strategies, formats, or creative with 2 or more experiment arms. And with both options, you select the metric you want to measure against, average CPC, cost per conversion, conversion rate, or click-through rate. And to find where the experiments are, go to Experiments under the Campaigns menu in Google Ads, and then select the DemandGen Experiments tab. All right, question 2. How should I compare DemandGen to my campaigns on other social platforms? There's also a conversions platform comparable metric. Use this to compare DemandGen performance against other advertising platforms. The primary conversion columns are used for optimization in our bidding systems. Primary conversions do not factor in view-through conversions. You can add the conversions platform comparable and related columns in your tables at the campaign, ad group, and ad level, also at the video assets reporting levels. And with that, thanks for tuning in to Google Ads Decoded. Let us know what you think. We'll love your feedback, and stay tuned for next week's episode.